Hi folks, this is Dina Paco of EmbodyTheSacred.net, and I wanted to share with you today my personal healing journey with Usui Reiki, the Usui Reiki system of energy balancing and energy healing that hails from Japan and originated with Mikaya Usui back in the late 1800s and then came here to the US through Hawaii Takata in the early 1930s. So my introduction to Reiki came in 1998. It was 1 year after I survived a near fatal car accident. And I do have other videos where I talk about this and I go in pretty in depth in my website, but I'll just give you a quick summary. So my healing journey with Reiki, like I said, started in 1998. It was a year after I was in a near fatal car accident with multiple pretty serious injuries. So I was hit head on at an impact speed of 85 miles an hour. And my car was a Volkswagen Golf. And back then, there were no airbags or even a strap. I just had a lap belt no, actually I didn't have a lap belt. I just had a strap. So there was no lap belt, no airbags. So there wasn't very much, protection. So anyway, I was hit head on at an impact speed of 85 miles an hour. And what ended up happening was the whole front end of my car came in just as my body was moving forward. So the whole front end of my car came in and my body went forward and I actually shattered both my femurs. My chest ended up hitting the steering wheel and I cracked my sternum, broke ribs, collapsed both lungs, lacerated my liver, and had other, significant internal injuries, and also had pretty serious whiplash and other soft tissue injuries. So the most serious or the most challenging initially was collapsing both my lungs, because when you collapse your lungs, you can't breathe. And I knew it was going to be a while before the first responders could get to me. It took about 20 minutes because I was on a back road. So collapsing both my lungs, I stopped breathing. So this, was a whole revelation for me of deciding whether I wanted to live or die, because I really could have just closed my eyes and gone. And I prayed to the Creator. I was very spiritual. I was raised Catholic. I believed in angels. I had sort of started opening myself up more to the spirit world. And I felt a presence. I felt this energy come in, and I was able to breathe enough to survive, obviously, because I'm here right now speaking with you. So anyway, I still had all these other major injuries. I had tremendous blood loss. I needed 13 pints of blood to sort of rebalance my system. I had major surgery on both femurs with rods and locking screws in my hips and above both knees. I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks, which was really not very long. So I did have a pretty miraculous healing. And I attribute that to many things, having really excellent care. I had privilege to have that at Danbury Hospital here in Western Connecticut. I also had a lot of people praying for me. I also was a vegetarian and did a lot of holistic practices. I did yoga every day. So, and I didn't drink or smoke. I'm pretty sure that probably helped as well. So there were a lot of things that I believe created an environment for me to heal pretty well, all things considered, right? Sometimes the emotional healing takes way longer, especially after a big trauma. But getting back to the Reiki, so this was my stage for learning Reiki. So I knew a year after the accident, even after having gone through physical therapy for many months, I was seeing a chiropractor. I was able to get massage. My insurance covered it at the time. I also had a nutritionist. I was doing some yoga. I saw a psychotherapist to help with the trauma. So I was doing a lot of stuff. I was using visualization to try to help myself heal. And I was walking, I was back to work. I was walking, I was driving, but I still had a lot of pain and stiffness because of all the injuries and still having the metal in my femurs. So I, was just open to, well, whatever else could help me. I trusted that the universe would guide me in some way. And I kept getting messages. Different people would say to me, oh, you've been through trauma. You should have energy work, or you should have energy healing. And I was like, I don't really know what that is. But I was open. And I didn't know what it was. And I figured, well, let me try to find out. So I was doing some work at the Total Life Care Center in Norwalk uh, many years ago. So it's back in 1998. And I noticed that there were some flyers from the wonderful Beth Lees um, on Reiki. So I decided to take a class, and I didn't know what it was, but it said in her flyer that you could learn and you could do it on yourself and learn like the first level in a day, and you could do it on yourself. It would help with stress and pain, and hopefully help with stress and pain and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I was sold. I was like, I'm doing this. And it was really incredible because after that first class, uh, some really powerful things happened to me. And I really believe they were the catalyst that led me to change careers from being in the corporate world to forging a path as a holistic health practitioner and teacher. So what ended up happening was, we have energy centers in the palms of both hands. And in the attunement process, which awakens or links us to the Reiki energy, my palm started to pulse, believe it or not, like the pulse in your neck, only I could feel it without touching anything. And I'd be typing on my computer and I would feel these pulses in my palms for about 3 weeks nonstop. And I was like, what the heck is going on? The other thing that was really amazing was after the class, I still had numbness in both my feet because of the nerve damage from the accident and probably from the surgeries. I had pretty major nerve damage in both knees and had lost feeling in both my feet. Well, all the feeling came back in my feet after that class. And I was like, wow, that was pretty amazing. But then it gets even more incredible. So in the level 1 of Reiki, you're usually taught how to do a healing session on yourself, which is one of the things that I love the most about Reiki, is that you can learn and you can do it on yourself. And it's very gentle, hands-on healing, or you can even do off the body healing and even learn to send Reiki at a distance, like we do when we pray for people at a distance and the positive energy. So it's similar to that. And it's really probably one of the easiest things you would ever learn. So I was doing my self-treatments, and I had a very stressful job as an art director and graphic designer. And just the stress relief and having some relief from the pain that I was feeling was amazing. But even more happened. So this is like 5 days after that class. I was doing some work over my left hip. I was just doing some hands-on healing over my left hip. And all of a sudden I felt something deep inside my hip. It was like pulsing, 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 and then it went. Now, I didn't have any language for this back then, but it was basically like an energy block, and it just like burst. And I just thought this was so fascinating. Like, I'd never felt anything like this before. What did that mean? What just happened? So I got up off my couch, and I had a limp on my left side, was gone. It was gone. And I really couldn't believe it. So I was like running around the house, or maybe not running, walking around the house, trying to see if it would come back, and it didn't. I went to work the next day, and my coworkers were like, what happened? Like, you're walking so much better now. And then I went to see my chiropractor, who I was seeing, pretty regularly. And he was like, what did you do? And I was like, I don't know. I took this Reiki class, and like, this just happened. And it was really amazing. And it just really, I think the universe, I always joke about this, but I think the universe was like, we really have to get this message across so that she doesn't miss it. We got to make it really obvious. So that was pretty darn obvious. And even though I knew I needed to change the trajectory of my life, God, if that accident didn't teach me that, but I was still resisting. I just wanted to go back to my life the way it was before. I wanted to go back to normal. And after you go through a huge trauma, like a near fatal car accident where you've had all these injuries, and, people go through all different kinds of traumas. There's many types, and many more serious than what I went through. you really can't go back. You're not the same person that you were before. I changed completely from who I was before. Yeah, there might be still a little bit of the old me there, but really I've just seen things and been through things now that, it's just completely different. So learning the Reiki and seeing how easy it was to do for myself just really sort of opened this door. And I said, well, why aren't we doing this in hospitals? Why aren't we teaching people how to empower themselves and to help themselves? And of course, now today we are. Reiki is all over. There are many people teaching and offering Reiki classes all over the world. And Reiki's in schools now, it's in healing centers, it's in hospitals, it's in clinics and doctors' offices and private practices. And so it's really amazing how it just really exploded over the last several years. So for me, it was such a powerful example of the healing power of the universe if we're open to it. But the other thing too to remember is, well, why did I have that amazing healing and not somebody else? And, why doesn't it work like that every time and with every person? And all I can say is, um, and I've had instances where things just did not heal, no matter how much Reiki I did. Like I had to have a hysterectomy. I had 17 inches worth of tumors in my body. So this was like just a few years ago. Eh, you know, I tried herbal remedies, diet change, shamanic healing, Reiki, you name it. And it just didn't heal the tumors that I had or reduce them enough. And I was losing like gallons of blood, it felt like every month. I had to have surgery, you know? So there isn't one size fits all. There isn't one answer to a problem. Every person is different. And sometimes every time or instance is different. So we just don't know. And I think part of it is, we're not the ones in charge of the healing. Even as a practitioner, it's like my work went from being, I was a Reiki practitioner. I wasn't really practicing with the public yet. For the first few years, I just worked on myself and helped others in my family and friends. And it wasn't until I went to massage therapy school and I graduated in 2002 that I opened my practice. So this year is like my 20-year anniversary as a healing arts practitioner, which is pretty cool. So, I was a massage therapist and a Reiki master teacher. And then I started, someone read my natal chart and said that my path was really a shamanic one, which is, a spiritually based healing path. And I did have a very strong connection to the spirit world, but I really kind of felt like that was personal, not something I should be doing with other people. I really didn't, know how that was going to work. And then once I had my chart read and that was shared with me, I said, all right, I really trust God and the universe. You show me how you want that to be. What am I meant to do? And then I started meeting a lot of First Nations and indigenous medicine people and learning about the ways that they do healing, a lot of which is energetically and spiritually based. So it all kind of tied together for me. So even now, as a more shamanically based practitioner, I weave together the Reiki. So it's like a shamanistic Reiki healing session that I do, and working with stones and crystals and sound and prayer. It all works, very well together. A lot of the ways that our indigenous and our own ancestors did healing. So, Reiki really has been my foundation. And if it interests you, I think it's definitely worth looking into, but do your due diligence on researching practitioners, because, someone could just have taken a one-day class and hung a shingle out. Whereas to me, it really takes a lot more depth and study, even though you can learn it in a day to do on yourself, and it can be incredibly powerful. If you want to be a professional practitioner, it takes a lot more than a one-day class to be a healing arts practitioner with, the wisdom and the clarity to work with the public. So that takes a lot longer. And I would find a really good teacher in your area if you can do it in person. If you're local or near Northwestern Connecticut and you want to come and work with me, I'm open to that. You can contact me through my website, embodythesacred.net. I teach one-on-one, and I can also teach virtually as well. And I can teach small groups when they come up. So it's been quite a journey for me with Reiki. And just to kind of finish that up, so I kind of gave you like the overall picture, but there was more to that initial journey for me, which I forgot to mention, but another part of it. So once I took my level 1 and I had those amazing experiences of, the feeling in my feet coming back, the limp disappearing, the pulsing in my hands, and just like amazing stress relief and healing experiences, I said, well, I want to learn more. So I did, further my training. And I eventually did a Reiki master teacher training with a local teacher, Sherry Farrington, who was amazing, and studied with her for several months. But right in the middle of that, I had the last surgery on my leg. So I had to have, or chose to have, the titanium rods taken out of both femurs because I could feel them. I also had a bone chip in my right hip from the irritation of the rod. So it was like time for them to come out. I was in my early 30s, it was a good time to do that. So the surgery was already scheduled and I knew how to send distant Reiki ahead to the future. So I was like sending it to myself, to surgery, to anyone involved in my care and anything like that, for the highest good of all. And then I knew other Reiki practitioners who were also sending good energy and also people praying for me. So, I was trying to set this up as best I could for a good outcome. So I had the surgery and I talked to my PA afterwards, and I had to have 2 big incisions. And anybody who's ever had anything done on their femurs, you're cutting through, some pretty major layers of tissue to get into the femur. So I had a bone chip on the right side. So I had 2 very large incisions on the right side and then one on the left. And my PA said they actually had to re-break my left leg to get the rod out on that side because it had calcified over the top of the rod. Your body knows when there's foreign stuff in there. But all I needed was aspirin as a pain reliever. So that was pretty cool. I didn't really need as much pain medication as they thought I was going to need. So that was awesome. And then also the other thing that was pretty astounding was when the nurse came in to change my bandages initially, I had very large scar, very large incisions with staples, stitches. And the incisions were completely sealed the next morning, which the surgeries I had before that were not the case. And there was a lot of drainage and, it took a while for the tissue to kind of knit back together. This was like immediate. It really was like, whoa. And when I went to the doctor to have the staples removed, the nurse said to me, when did you have your surgery? I said, well, it was like 10 days ago. And she's like, I've never seen incisions heal like this before. And I was like, wow. And back then, honestly, I wasn't that comfortable talking about it. And even to this day, if someone doesn't ask me personally, even though I've been doing this work for a long time, it's honestly very hard for me to talk about some of this stuff. And I'm trying to get over that and just share it because I think people need to hear. Now, does this mean that, everybody who has Reiki is going to have some miraculous healing? Boy, I wish that were the case. But again, there's just some things that are mysteries to life and to healing. All I can say is, if we can put as much good energy as we can into our healing, and sometimes healing doesn't mean a cure. And often it's a combination of approaches that might work best for folks, like a combination of Western and Eastern medicine. It's really integrative medicine. And it's really a privilege to be able to afford or participate in a program of integrative medicine. So what we need to do is really create opportunities for integrative medicine to be available to all. I mean, right now, most of us can barely afford even our regular Western medicine and the insurance. So these things need to change. It all needs to change. It should be accessible to everyone. So anyway, that's my story with Usui Reiki. And I also, do private healing sessions still. After all these years, I love to work with people. So I do a combination of Reiki and shamanic healing and uh, spiritual guidance in my sessions. And I work with the tarot, which I love the tarot. So if that interests you, you can reach me through my website at embodythesacred.net. I now have joined the 21st century and have online scheduling to make it easier for folks. So thanks so much for listening, and I hope this was interesting for you, and I will be sharing more soon. Thanks so much.